Welcome to the Interior Analysis Podcast. Your boys leading this one. I'm Jelani. Kelly.
I'm Evan Westman.
I'm David Jones.
And today we're talking about The Amazing Spider-Man 2, the sequel, if you didn't know, to The Amazing Spider-Man 1, directed by Mark Webb, starring Andrew Garfield.
Let's go.
Let's get, well, it's not really initial thoughts because I don't think this is any of our first time seeing this, right?
Yeah.
No.
Okay. We'll just do some off the cuff intro stuff. Anything you guys wanted to say before we get into topics? Go ahead.
The shit was boring.
Okay. I am not going to be as defensive of this as I was with the last one, so that's, yeah.
I'm going to try not to be, and I completely understand because I just left the movie playing so we could start on time, and there were a lot of like lulls that I was just like, all right, I can do some other things while this is like Gwen and Peter when they reconnected, and I was like, all right, I have other stuff I could be doing right now.
They're really stretching Peter too thin. We'll get into it, but they're pulling him too thin.
Yeah.
Why don't we, before we get into anything, why don't we all just say, like, how we first saw this, and then, like, what our thoughts were this time.
I first saw this in theaters in 2014, so I would have been 15. I don't know when in 2014 this came out, so I'm not sure, like, where that puts me in my curriculum, but when I watched it, I didn't think it was as bad as it got really torn apart to anyone who wasn't like watching or in the reviews section of people's movies at the time. Like, people did not like this movie, and I was a little on its side. I was like, come on guys, it's not perfect, but like, it's not awful. This time, after spending 4 wonderful years at Drexel and starting to understand why things are the way they are, I really understand why this movie got torn apart, because there's a lot of nothing happening for 2.5 hours.
I wouldn't say the full 2.5, but I think at least one of the 2.5, there's a whole lot of nothing.
Yeah. I like Evan, I'm going to try my best not to defend it, because this is where us and Raimi fans differ. We understand it's a bad movie. We enjoy it as I don't know if I speak for Evan, but I enjoy it as a guilty pleasure. The Raimi fans just 100%. I was actually texting my friend. I think did we have Chase on before? I think we did.
Yeah, for the MPAAs.
Yeah.
I've seen him. I saw his, I think he's like live tweeting it as he's watching
Yeah,
it.
okay, yeah, so you did, yeah. He rewatched, what perfect timing. He rewatched all 3 movies today, and man, those nostalgia goggles.
You rewatched all 3 Raimi movies today?
Yes.
Whoa, that's a commitment.
I mean, we did that last year over the course of like a week, and that was too much.
Yeah, he actually broke up between the second and third just to watch the Sixers game, but then went right back into 3, and he was live tweeting and also texting one of my group chats about how great the movie is and the movies are, and I was just like, you. For my intro stuff, I remember seeing this in theaters and being depressed that Gwen gets clapped. I think I said on the Amazing Spider-Man podcast, but this is one of the few things I didn't know about Spider-Man before seeing this movie. I had no idea Gwen Stacy died because my introduction to Spider-Man was mainly the Raimi films, and Gwen ain't dying in those movies, so I wasn't expecting it. I remember my dad verbally saying, really? When Spidey shot the web out that looked like a hand that was reaching out to her. And then I think we were all, because I think my brother was in it, so I say all, shocked when her neck done broke. Yeah, R.I.P. Also, Ryan from The Office is in this, and he's still being an ass. So
Yeah, I didn't know that when I watched it the first time. I had not seen The Office.
Mm-hmm.
So watching it this time, I was like, oh shit, it's the dude from The Office.
Yep.
Yeah, he's there for all of 2 scenes, I think, and like they're not even very long scenes.
Happy
Yep, almost
birthday,
as
Max.
much as Felicia Hardy.
Oh, God.
A completely wasted character.
Yeah, well, I think they were. I think I read somewhere they were supposed to have more with Felicity Jones's character. Like she was supposed to be like a love interest for Harry, I think, but they ended up not doing that. Or they were gonna like bring that in the third or something. I don't know.
In the oh god.
Yeah, I don't remember exactly what the details were, but I think she was supposed to have a bigger role. I don't know if you said how you felt first watching it, but I think I probably had the best initial reaction to this. Like, to this day, watching this in the theater might be the best experience I've had seeing anything in a theater.
Endgame.
Yeah, I think it tops Endgame.
What?
Like, Endgame was not. All right, come on. You know, like where I stand with. I'm not gonna deny that Endgame was cool, but like of the like 6 or 7 friends that I saw it with, I think I was the least into it. Which isn't to say that I was like totally not into it, but they were all like much more on that train than I was.
Did you go with me?
Um,
Did we see it together?
no,
Oh.
no, we no. I went with some other friends.
Oh.
I think to this day, I think the only movie we've seen together is Dark Phoenix. So,
Oh my god.
yeah, that's a story for another time. But that is my fault.
Jesus.
Short answer, yes, much better than Endgame. I think the only theater experience that rivals it is probably Tenet the first time. I was pretty amped watching Tenet last year in theaters. I really enjoyed it in theaters. It was among my favorite movies for most of high school. I also remember, like, it was kind of significant in my, like, the start of my, like, I don't want to say career because that's the wrong word, but, like, as a, like, analyst film reviewer, like, I think this was the last movie I saw in theaters before I started getting into, like, criticism and screenwriting because I kind of got into those at the same time. And I remember this was one of the first movies I reviewed on IMDb back when I did that.
Mm-hmm.
And it was kind of a turning point. Like, for some reason, this one always sticks out as like the first review I feel like I actually did half decent on. I reread it last night, and I don't agree with everything I said. There were some places I was way off the mark, but I read it without cringing, which is not the case most of the time I reread my reviews. Most of them make me cringe very hard. But I always kind of think of this as like, I feel like I started taking reviews and like criticism a little more seriously with this one. I don't know why, but it just always has stood out to me.
It's baffling to me you started with this one.
I did. It wasn't the first one. It was like number 30, I think.
No, I mean you said looking at movies critically from a.
It's not just. I don't know. I just the distinction that I made with it because like. For the first like 29 or whatever that I did, I had the entire thing be like one long paragraph, and then for that one I decided like I should start breaking these up, and I continued doing that after, and I don't know, it just, I mean, most of what I wrote, probably all of what I wrote before, and honestly most of what I wrote after is not great. It took a while to develop, I'd say, like decent criticism skills, but I think this was like my first success, I guess, because it's the oldest thing I can reread and be like, all right, there's something there.
So this movie was the first time you discovered the enter key on your keyboard?
No, it's a long story with how IMDb does its formatting and stuff. I just like decided I wanted to actually like make them look well formatted and something like that. I don't do reviews anymore because now I do this, but that was a starting point.
I wanted to jump into this. I added this last minute because I completely forgot. I don't know why I didn't. Music, just real quick. Hans Zimmer was on one with this. I don't normally check for soundtracks in movies unless it's. Normally, I think it's comic book movies that I normally download, like Spider-Verse. That was a fire soundtrack.
Yeah.
But it wasn't one composer. Man of Steel is another fantastic one for me.
Also Hans.
Yeah. And then, of course, Silvestri with any Avengers theme. But this was one of the few where I downloaded the electro theme and the intro theme. As soon as I hear that bell of the theme, that opening, I get hyped when he starts swinging through the city. I'm just like, yes.
That song was my alarm for a long time.
It's a great song to wake up to.
That song that plays when he first, like the beginning of that swing sequence, I had that as my alarm. It was like excellent to wake up to.
It's too bad everything that followed after was disastrous.
Not everything. Not everything.
Most.
I'm not gonna like defend the whole movie, but I like we'll get to this later. I have things that I think are bright spots.
All right.
But the score is yes, second. Like, actually, go more on the score because I'm gonna second most of it. But if you have more,
no, I don't. I want to hear if David has anything with the score.
The score specifically, I enjoyed more in this movie. I found myself, especially in the Spider-Man moments, being like, okay, enjoying that part more. It's not as much as the Elfman one, but I like it a lot more than the first one. The soundtrack as a whole, though, I felt the song choices in this movie were a little, I don't know if they were too on the nose. They were just, whenever music would start playing, like I forgot what song it is, but whenever Peter, he like puts on the headphones and he goes to his closet.
oh yeah, the Philip Phillips song.
Yeah, I was like, this is a little too much. Like,
Yeah, no, I don't know.
I'm okay. I don't need this right now. So the soundtrack part of it, I wasn't as much of a fan of as I was of actual Hans score.
Yeah,
But, like, that's Hans Zimmer for you. So I mean, breaking news. He's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe that's what I meant. Not the entire soundtrack, because I forgot that song was in this. I try to block it out of my head. But Hans Zimmer specifically in this movie.
Yeah, this, I don't know what else competes with this, but it might be my favorite score, which is why it's a freaking crime that Apple Music doesn't have it on there. They did for a while. I bought like 6 of the songs back in high school, back before like Apple Music did their streaming thing. But now I can't even get at those because they took off the whole thing. I don't know why. I'm very upset about that. I had like 5 of these songs that I would just like play on repeat throughout high school, because back then like movie scores were most of what I listened to because I had no taste.
Let's move on to, if we don't have any more for music, let's move on to thoughts.
I was very nervous going into this because, you know, it's been a while since I saw this, and I do have nostalgia for it. And I was like, but I have a much more critical eye now. Maybe it's not gonna hold up. And to an extent, that's true. Like, there's a lot of problems with this, but at the same time, I still enjoyed this. Like, I think it's still probably third. I think I'd rewatch this over definitely Spider-Man Homecoming, maybe over Far From Home, even though I did enjoy that one. It has a lot of issues, like I said, and we'll get into more of it, but there are some really high highs in this movie. Like, I think it has most of my favorite Spider-Man moments in anything. Like, that opening swing sequence is still awesome.
Right before he starts letting people die when he's talking to Rhino.
Yeah, that I take issue with. As I said, it's moments. It's not like that whole scene, but like the stuff, like moments within all of these are like really transcendent, I think. When he stops the bus, I love that. The part where he saves the people in Times Square, like,
That was cool.
that is one of the best Spider-Man, like, 5 seconds of narrative time ever. Like, that's so dope. The Electro fight at the power grid, pretty good, actually. Same with the fight with Goblin. I don't love how they get to those, but the fights themselves, pretty decent.
That's all a blur
Gwen's
to
death.
me, though. For me,
Yeah.
like, I don't remember specifically what he did besides connecting the webs. Like, I could take or leave those scenes. Plus, having 2 villains in this movie, 3 technically, because of Rhino, none of them fight Spider-Man together.
Don't worry, they don't learn how to do that until Sinister Six.
Yeah.
If only we got the Amazing Spider-Man 3.
Jelani, they were just rolling for initiative. Like, I don't know what's confusing for you right now.
That's why Goblin showed up right after.
Yeah,
like, okay,
yeah.
my
Electro
perfectly
rolled for
timed.
initiative first. Plus, Goblin had to take 6 turns to like get his glider as far as he had to go.
Yeah.
It's a long way. Just a couple more moments I wanted to shout out. Gwen's death, I know we'll make jokes about it, whatever.
David will.
It's still good. The final moment when Spider-Man comes back, I still got chills. It's so cool.
It's a nice moment.
Like, it's really cool. The only thing I remember being frustrated by that in theaters though, because all of the trailers ended with that same shot.
Yeah.
And I was like kind of looking forward to like, oh, what's like the rest of that fight gonna be? And then as it was happening, I was like, oh man, they're gonna end on the trailer shot. Like, that's kind of a letdown.
I was shocked in the theaters once I saw it was over.
Watching it now, I don't care. I'm just like, this is excellent.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is as many problems as there are in like the bulk of this movie. I still get so amped at the ending. It's like, it's excellent. And like just throughout, like I think if Amazing Spider-Man 1 sold me on Peter Parker, this sold me on like Spider-Man as a superhero, because he's just like so resourceful and smart in his action scenes in this movie. Like the way he uses, like he'll like pick stuff up and like swing it with his webs and stuff. Like the way he uses the manhole cover at the end, I think is just like that kind of resourcefulness we don't really see in most other Spider-Man movies, I think, or at least not in the Raimi trilogy and not in Amazing Spider-Man 1, for sure.
I didn't notice that he was deflecting the missiles with the cover until somebody pointed it out on Reddit.
It's so cool. Like, I love that so much. But even, like, there's a few other moments, too. Like, when he's fighting Electro at the power grid, like, he immediately tries to use the water on him like before. Like, that's just immediately what he should do. Even that opening chase, I know there's like criticisms to make of that. There's several moments in there that he's just like being very aware, and like when he webs up like the vial things, there's a great thinking on his feet that you see, and I feel like that's just not present in most other Spider-Man scenes.
I think it's a dope display of his powers, like the capability, because he's able to perceive things faster and such. So, I really enjoyed the action in this, and he was doing it on his own, Iron Man Jr.
Yeah.
So.
They use slow-mo and visual effects really well here, I'd say. Like, you're saying you like most of the action. I don't like all of the action in this. I think it's weird because most of the time I prefer like practical effects to CGI. I think this is one of the only movies where like when it's practical, I feel like they just kind of did a bad job with like practical effects with the cars and stuff.
Barring the Times Square scene, I think it gets worse over time. Like by the end, it's just all CGI. I couldn't. That's why I said it's all blurry. So I don't remember anything specific happening when it came to them fighting.
Yeah, normally I have a problem with that. In this, I was like, I think the CGI it looks good in this. I think it looks better than most MCU movies. And maybe that's just nostalgia goggles for me. But I would take watching this over basically any MCU movie. I'm not thinking of any. I feel like they just use their CGI very poorly. Well, I feel like the MCU uses their CGI very poorly.
But you would take this movie over any MCU movie?
I heard the steam coming out of David's ears.
I don't have a lot of love for the MCU like some people.
I mean, me either. Anyway, you ask any of my friends, I despise the MCU, but like, come on.
No, I'm not going to argue that it's better, but I personally have a better time watching this movie than I do with most MCUs.
But like any of like what about like there's a lot of different flavors. Like you got like Guardians that touches some people.
There's not that many different flavors.
Yeah, there's some Guardians. Well, that's like the formula personified, so that makes sense why you don't like it. A lot of people get touched by Thor 3. A lot of people are touched by Black Panther. You wouldn't pick any of those over this movie?
I think
Civil
Black
War.
Panther is definitely a better movie. I haven't seen Thor Ragnarok.
Black Panther.
Like,
I would take Black Panther over this any day.
Avengers 1, Black Panther, Endgame, Infinity War. Those are all better movies, but I don't enjoy them as much as this.
I would take this over the first Avengers.
That's a me thing.
Okay.
For sure. Like, I'm not arguing. Like, obviously they have a coherent plot in those movies, and this movie kind of doesn't.
The first
So
Avengers
I'm
is
gonna argue that
boring up until that final fight.
First
to me.
Avengers is so boring.
Yeah.
no, it's I'm not gonna argue with that. Stack it up like in an objective sense on like is there like a clear through line with that plot? Yes, there is in Avengers, and in this there really isn't. But I enjoy this more. That's just my reaction. It's not necessarily like this is guilty pleasure isn't the first word I'd use, but this is a pretty bad movie that I really enjoy. And
It's
I
like
think
not that bad. Like it's
Yeah,
bad, but like it's like to me, this is my thing. I've recently, and by recently I mean within the past month, watched The Phantom Menace again, and that is one of the worst movies I think I've ever seen in my entire life. And I'm kind of using that, right? But I'm using that as like a thing. And like this is nowhere near as awful as The Phantom Menace. It's not a good movie by any means, but it is not like the garbage that I think people shit on it to be.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think it gets hated on too much, but there are also very legitimate problems with it.
Oh
But,
yeah.
I mean, I actually kind of like by the end of watching it like a few nights ago, I was kind of like I think I understand Raimi fans now. I don't agree with them still. But that's not to say but I understand.
It's like you came to like a religious like moment. You're like sitting by a fire and you were like, yes, I have gotten my calling now. I'm ready.
Well,
I can break bread with those people now.
because but I don't want to like assume that Raimi fans all think that. I think there are some who think that they're like God's gift to cinema, but those are few and far between, I think.
No, they're not. No, they're not. Almost every single one of them is.
Okay, maybe you've met different ones than I have.
There's I'm gonna reference Reddit. There's an entire subreddit dedicated to that, and I told you nothing but the comments are just quotes from all three of the fucking movies. Sorry to swear, but all of them, including my friend that I need to question the friendship with. Like,
I can get along with Raimi fans.
No.
Like, I think it's fine. There's a difference because I think the part of the reason that like people hate on this more is that the bad parts of this are not fun bad, whereas like, I can enjoy like I hate the Raimi movies, but I still watch all the Bully Maguire like memes that come out because they're hilarious. There's fun stuff in the badness for the Raimis. Whereas for this, like, I don't defend the bad parts of this movie. I'm not going to in this podcast because they are bad. Like, I also hate them. But there are just other parts that I think shine very bright. And that makes this a worthwhile experience for rewatching for me personally. It was humbling rewatching this because, like, I think I wish I wasn't like this, but I think sometimes I do get a little bit, like, elitist in my likes and dislikes. And this just reminded me, like, it's okay for me and other people to like stuff that's not good. And I think I forget that too often. So
just look at Raimi fans. All right.
Yeah. Well, I want to offer a little
Right?
bit of
I
truth to
love
Raimi
Spider-Man
fans.
1 and 2.
Sure.
No follow-up.
See?
What are you sure? Oh my god. This is not a safe space.
I just don't want us to go down a Raimi tangent.
No, it was bound to happen.
It was bound to happen. You can't really talk about these movies separately from each other, but
I know, it's
like,
iconic.
no, but like, I mean, I know you don't speak for all Raimi fans, David, but like,
Not news to me.
I don't agree. I don't agree that they're good. I don't know if that's what you are saying there, or like, because enjoying it is different than saying it's good. I don't agree that they're good, but I respect your enjoyment of them.
God bless.
So I'm gonna try, like, in the future to not.
I can
be
sleep
as,
tonight.
Like... Well, I'm gonna try in the future to not be as like aggressively against like Maguire Raimi fans.
I won't.
Even though, like,
I
still
think you
make
should
fun of
stab them on sight and watch them bleed out and say, "Is this what Uncle Ben wanted for you?"
Okay, yeah, I'm not gonna do that. I already have friends who are fans of them. Like,
Same. I know more people who are fans of Raimi than I guess this is the Webb
Yeah.
duology.
yeah, the Mark Webb. Yeah, the Webb duo, the Mark Webb duo. I feel like Mark Webb's name gets less mentioned with these, though. I feel like people reference these as the Garfields.
But his
whereas I feel
name
like
is
Raimi and
Webb.
Maguire-
It's not that difficult.
I think about that every time when the credits roll. I'm like,
Yeah. Well, I think part of it is that, like, this movie doesn't really feel that much like The Amazing Spider-Man 1. Like, I don't feel his,
oh no,
like,
it feels so
same-
different.
Yeah, whereas you can feel a very consistent tone across the Raimis. Like, he has so much more of a distinct style and, like,
Yeah.
voice, I guess.
His
with it.
fingerprints all over that. You're like, that is Sam Raimi. It's like when you watch a Zack Snyder movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Or, like, most notable directors. But I watched both of these, and I'm like, I don't know what, like, the Mark Webb trademark is from watching these.
The fans are asking for a web cut.
Horrible dialogue.
What?
In this?
I think so. I hated the dialogue. The dialogue made me want to just die.
All right, there was one
Dialogue.
moment where I was like, really, man? When as soon as Electro decides he's going to be a villain, he just starts off the bat making villain quips. He's like, he says something like, "It's my birthday, time for me to light my candles," and then he tries to shock Spider-Man. I'm like, dude, you just decided to be a villain, and now you're going full cheese. Okay.
Yeah. Well, they dropped the ball really freaking
Don't you
hard
know
with Electro.
I'm Electro.
Yeah.
Electro. Well,
The Electro stuff.
that's maybe his best moment.
I hated the Harry dialogue. Like, I felt like a lot of the Harry shit
God.
was like such exposition-y dialogue that like they just told you instead of showing you anything. They were like, you know, we spent the first 20 minutes in a flashback that we just redid from the first movie to give you a little bit more context that won't matter. So to make up for that, let's take up 10 years to 15 years of memories in this sentence about being friends. And I'm like, bruh, what is going on here? Yeah. And then Gwen, everything I really like. I feel like Gwen is a different character in this movie, but
A little bit. Not
not
totally
too different. She has some of her parts in the first one, but she was just such a power player in the first one, and in this one I feel like she's really just there at the behest of the screenwriter needing plot conflict for Spider-Man. And I'm like, oh my god.
I mean, she hits Electro with the car, David. So there's nothing.
There she is.
Yep.
She pulls the thing down to make it go boom.
Yep. And then
And
dies.
gives
dies.
Peter the idea to magnetize his web shooters. That's a pretty clutch move.
I thought
Yeah.
that one dude on the TV gave him that. Because he was like, I
No.
use new
No, it's her.
No, remember when Electro comes back? She's like, okay, magnetize
Oh, the battery
Just a
and
magnet with batteries.
explode.
See, that was the thing. Like, to me, in the first movie, Gwen was such a powerful, independent character on her own. In this movie, like, she had her own thing going on, and Peter was, like, interfering with that, and that was some of the conflict in the first movie, and it worked. But this one, it was like, well, Gwen is gonna pretty much just do whatever we need her to do for Peter, because she's just, like, under his thumb the whole time. And I'm like, this isn't Gwen.
But she decides to leave for Oxford.
And then she comes back and she goes, "It's my choice. It's my choice, Peter. That's why I'm here, because it's my choice. 'Cause
I thought that was
choose
just-
to be here."
I thought that was she did repeat it a lot. I thought it was just for the power grid scene. I didn't think there was more to that.
Well, there was gonna be more if she didn't die.
I'm kind of with Jelani on this. I think that was like just a momentary kind
Are
of
you
thing. It's like, I'm
kidding?
here to...
Andrew
He said, "I
Garfield.
love you" on the bridge, swooped down, took her, and then they had that
The
whole
agreement
moment.
was that he would go to England.
Yeah,
It was never
Andrew
that
Garfield
she would
is
stay.
British, David. It all works out.
that was it.
It would have
Yeah.
worked out.
No,
No.
that was not. Nope.
What I did notice was with them this time was like I think that they apparently there's a lot like their relationship is much more serious than it was at the end of the first movie. Like I don't know how much time we're supposed to assume has passed, but like they are much more serious about each other from like as soon as they're breaking up I'm like, "Oh, this has like some weight to it that was not there in the first movie."
I guess they were more serious, but like to me, I don't know. I'm all about the action in anything that I'm watching. And like Gwen's scenes with Peter, there wasn't a lot of action going on. There just was a lot of talking and a
True.
lot of back and forth about like I can't be with you, but we have to be together. But I can't be with you. And I'm like, but I felt like the scenes I got in the first one had more substance. Like there might not have been as deep in their relationship, but I got more substance out of their relationship. This one I was like, each scene they were having the same issue until he
There is a lot
finally
of-
concedes and is like, you know what? There's no reason why we shouldn't be together, and then he kills her.
shouldn't
I
be
mean, I
laughing
think
at
you're
this.
slightly oversimplifying it, but I do hear you because, like,
I mean,
There-
it's completely accurate.
well, there's side, like, I think obviously there's a lot of plot issues, and that is one of them. They really didn't know where they were trying to go, I think, with that relationship, or like they just were like, all right, we need conflict, so they tried to create some and kind of did a bad job of
There's
it.
a lot of back and
What
forth.
I do like, and like this is again tick up for this against the Raimi trilogy, the chemistry between the two of them does pay off, I think, because I get the sense that like they really enjoy being around each other. You still get that, I think, from all of their scenes together, and I never get that from any pair of people of any kind in the Raimi
I was gonna say
movies.
that, like, you cannot vouch for anything when it comes to Mary Jane for the Raimi movies. I don't care who you are.
No.
If you, no, it's on site. If you try to,
But to me, as a
It
character,
is.
Gwen was giving a lot more Mary Jane energy in this movie in the way that she really is not doing anything.
Okay.
Like,
I disagree.
that's fine.
I disagree. I think she is asserting herself as more of a sidekick than a love interest, like from a like character construction perspective. And I don't love that they give the Oxford side plot because I think it just complicates things and like it's just one of like too many side plots. But it at least gives her some kind of agency and like is at least continuing the like she is valedictorian of their class. Like she's gonna be looking into some high-powered schools. So I mean,
That's
Columbia.
just such like a throwaway like point though. Like the 2.5
No, I
hours
agree.
we
It
get
goes
of
nowhere.
Gwen is just her not doing anything unless it is in accordance to Peter or with Peter. Like I don't know, Gwen the first movie gives me such independent intern living my own life vibes, and you're kind of a bug, Peter, but I'll let you in, and then I don't want to let you go. And this one, I'm like, you have a lot of responsibility. Your dad's dead. You got two younger brothers, a mom who is now widowed, and she's acting reckless because she's stigmatized, frankly. And I don't buy it. But that's my thing. I think her science comes across when it needs to help Peter. And every other point, she's like, but Peter, I thought you loved me.
I have a hard time defending this because I still think they did half decent, not great, but half decent with her in this. Both with her and Peter, I feel like they dropped the ball a little bit with both of them, but I attribute that more to plot issues than like disrespect for those characters. Like I feel like they are at least retaining some of like the spirit of both of them from the original. They just totally shit the bed on the second act in this, and we don't have to get into that now. I'd like to later, but I think that I would diagnose the stuff that they have them do as more of the problem, but it is hard to argue with your points there, David.
The Raimi trilogy was written by an AI.
Wouldn't be surprised.
Nobody in those movies speaks like a real human. So I'd
Nobody.
rather have bad dialogue than robotic.
Well, I don't think
See,
all the
I'm the
dialogue
other
is
one.
bad. I kind of think Jelani, I want to say you raised the question when we did the Raimi trilogy of like, does it feel like somebody is writing, like a different person is writing the dialogue for each character? I would say no for the Raimi trilogies. I might say yes for this movie because Electro and like the Oscorp people and Peter and Gwen and Aunt May, like, all of them feel like groups of them feel like they exist in the same world. All of them together feel like they exist in, like, different realities. Like, it does feel pretty disjointed and, like, not consistent. Like, the Raimi movies, the dialogue is really bad, but the world that it creates, it is consistent. It doesn't make sense, but it's consistent.
Consistently bad.
So,
got it.
Yeah. Punch me, I bleed. Oh boy, yeah. Like, those come from the same person.
You know, I'm something of a scientist myself.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Like, all the... they're like the same note of cheesy. Whereas this, half the time, I feel like this is half decent. Like, they gave, like, Emma Stone and Andrew Garfield some room to improv, and that, like, those parts feel pretty good to me. Even though, like, the substance of those scenes, sometimes there's something missing. But, like, it feels naturalistic, and then you get, like, Electro going, it's my birthday, now it's time to light the candles, or whatever. Like, that feels pretty... Those feel like they belong in different movies.
I mean, it was kind of separate, too. Like, Electro and Dane DeHaan were dealing with their own thing.
And it was all very separate.
Yeah.
Peter's issues with Gwen, Aunt May, Harry, and Electro were completely independent of each other.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if this is a defense of this movie, but it's something that I've kind of come to notice, and it's that the problems with this movie feel like mistakes. They feel like nobody really wanted them to happen, whereas the problems with the Raimi trilogy feel very intentional on somebody's part. And I don't know if, like, which movie that speaks well to, or if it speaks well to either. Maybe those, you know, they're problems no matter how you slice it. But I think with more time, or with, like, less interference by somebody, like, I don't think Mark Webb wanted these movies to be exactly what they were. I think something was stepping on his toes.
I think all of these writers need to spend more time around humans.
Yeah, well, I think also they had completely different writers for this than the first one, I want to say. I'm going to look that up now, but I think they had a different team. Of course, sometimes the credited writers aren't, like, the ones who actually worked on it for a big studio thing like this, or not the only ones who worked on it anyway, so I think there's a disconnect there. But yeah, there's some pretty unrealistic lines in here.
In both.
Well, more so the Raimi trilogy, I'd say. But there's a few pretty bad ones here that I will not stand by.
Villains.
Villains.
Both. Electro, Harry. Are we going to include Rhino? What about J. Jonah Jameson that doesn't show up? He's a villain.
Except in 2 emails, I think.
Spider-Man is one of the villains because he lets a bunch of people die in the beginning to make jokes. Who else? Oh, everybody's a villain. Black Cat is in this movie, except she's not.
Wait, is Felicia supposed to be Black Cat?
Yep.
Yeah, that's Black Cat.
Felicia Hardy.
Oh, okay. I never knew that.
You wouldn't from this movie, that's the truth.
Ryan from The Office, he's a villain in this movie.
In my heart.
There's that one guy that got Harry kicked out, the balding white
Aunt May,
guy.
she's a villain.
Aunt May's a villain.
She plays the laundry sergeant. Laundry Nazi.
Yep. The planes were villains because they were going to crash into each other when the power was shut off. Those were villains too.
All right, that's a little bit of a stretch there.
The Common Cold was a villain.
Electro's music when he did the Itsy Bitsy Spider, that was one of the villains of this movie. I'm surprised that didn't kill Gwen.
Electro's comb over was a villain in this movie, actually. It offended me on multiple levels.
The electric dentistry, those were villains. That was the villain. When his teeth got fixed.
Like grid towers that are unstable, that was a villain.
Those are villains. There's a lot of villains in this movie.
Yeah.
I don't know how they do it.
Depending on how you slice it.
Let's get into it. Electro. Let's start with him. I read Evan's notes, and I'm gonna side with him on this. I think Jamie Foxx, like he's gonna. I'm glad he's getting a second shot in No Way Home. Mm-hmm. Hopefully, No Way Home does him justice because he's a really good actor. So he just didn't have anything decent to work with in this movie, and oh boy.
I think he is the right actor for this role too. Like he's because have either of you seen Collateral with him?
No.
No.
Well, he kind of has to play like a similar role in that, in the sense that like he's playing somebody who starts off kind of lame, but then has to like become kind of a badass by the end. Like there's this one scene where he has to Tom Cruise is the other big actor in that. He has to pretend to be Tom Cruise's character, and like Jamie Foxx just does a really good job of walking this line where he can be very convincing as like the lamest person ever, but also can be such a badass, which is like exactly what he needed to be for this. It's just that they wrote Electro so badly, like more so Max Dillon, I think, because I like Electro from a power standpoint. Like I think he's a really good villain in terms of like fight scenes, or maybe not fight scenes, but like
Matchups with Spider.
Yeah, he's a great like
Foil.
physical villain for Spider-Man. Max Dillon as a character is possibly the weakest part of this movie. Like he's really poorly constructed.
I've read he's supposed to be schizophrenic, which I didn't pick up until I read that. And
Yeah, I don't believe
he's the only
that.
he's the only villain in any Spider-Man movie who loses his split personality when he becomes a villain.
Right.
All the other ones get their split personality when they become a villain.
well, not Sandman.
Oh yeah, I guess
He
not
just
Sandman.
gets sand in his pants.
All right.
Yeah, I guess Sandman's an exception. But all the other ones, Venom, Lizard, Green Goblin, Doc Ock, they all
Look at little Goblin
get split
Jr.
personality.
I said, look at little Goblin Jr.
Or don't.
Goblin
Gonna
Jr.
cry.
Don't look. It's better that way.
Well, in this movie,
Trash
he oh boy, where do we start? Well, are we done with the lecture? Because
Oh, I can say my part.
yeah,
I'll
go ahead.
It's very brief and it's quite offensive, but I was texting my friend live reactions to this movie, and the way I described it to him was, at least until he becomes Electro, Max Dillon is a panty sniffer. This dude is a very weird. He's going on a panty raid with Mr. Krabs, and I'm very uncomfortable about it. And I don't know what to do because he will do anything to just love on Spider-Man, and I didn't know we needed that. And as a child, or I guess a teenager, I didn't remember him being that creepy, but he really freaked me out when I watched it this time. I was like uncomfortable. Like, what? I thought he was gonna like wear his skin or something. He was like very obsessed for no reason.
I normally pride myself in predicting what people are going to be able to say, but David, you consistently, like, I can never predict what the hell you're going, like, where the hell you're going whenever you're talking about these movies. It's just hilarious.
David's got the Homelander effect for Jelani.
Yeah. The unpredictability, that's hilarious. Panty sniffer. And it's accurate because, I mean, I can't think of any other words to describe it. But yeah. Evan, what was your point?
I don't love his construction on almost any level, but one way they could have saved this a little bit, maybe more than a little bit, they should have just picked one motivation for him, because he kind of bounces between like four villainous motivations.
Well, he's schizophrenic. Why would he choose just one?
That's fair. Well, maybe just don't make him a schizophrenic where he's like talking to his version of Spider-Man in his mirror that's shaped like a human head.
I don't know if... Wasn't his... No, I think it was Max Dillon in the comics. I don't know if he was a schizophrenic originally in the comics. I'm with you there, yeah.
Yeah, because they're, like, at different points, he's, like, doing villainous things because of his betrayal from Spider-Man, because he feels invisible, because he didn't get credit for the power grid, because he feels like he needs to be needed by someone, and, like, he's obsessed with power. If we had, like, a TV show length of time for this story, that might have been okay. In a 2-hour movie where he's in like 40 odd minutes of it, you got to pick one, maybe two. But honestly, like, I was thinking like a way you could fix this is, I think the power grid is probably the best motivation they could have picked for him. That felt decent, and you could have still had like Spider-Man be aware of it because he's working at Oscorp. Gwen works at Oscorp. She could have at least gotten wind of it somehow. Maybe for once we could have a villain who Spider-Man doesn't have a personal connection with.
No, never.
I don't think that would fix it perfectly because I see other problems coming up with that, but they really did just give him as many motivations as they needed for like whatever plot convenience was best at the time. That I think is the main thing that's a problem with him. And again, I feel bad for Jamie Foxx because he's just so much better than this. And
But
he
he's
does
back.
try.
He's
He does
back.
try. I don't think he gives a bad performance exactly.
His performance is fantastic. It's all the material.
Yeah.
Well, it's exactly what I think they wanted him to do, but like there's just no way for him to save it. It's like well beyond saving before he even
Exactly.
gets
There's
there.
no way for him to read that creep ass dialogue and not be a weirdo.
Yeah. Yeah, his like
I like it a lot,
his-
Max.
I like it a lot, Max. That's what they should call the Amazing Spider-Man. Ooh, that was rough. Did we have more on Electro?
No, I just hope he's better in No Way Home.
Agree. So Harry, to go off of Jamie Foxx's performance, I feel like Dane DeHaan is the only performance in this that I unequivocally dislike. Actually, I take that back. The guy who plays the Rhino, I think it's actually Paul Giamatti.
It's Paul Giamatti.
It is Paul Giamatti.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if his performance is bad. That's just
That is
One of
another
the
one
worst
where
parts
it's
of
like,
it.
what is he supposed to do? And he just screams, "I Rhino, die Spider-Man."
yeah,
Yeah.
Russian or like vaguely Eastern European stereotype.
Also, there were many moments where the cops could have just shot him in the head when he had the Rhino screen thing open.
Yeah. Thankfully, the Rhino's not in this very much. That would have made this movie truly indefensible, I think.
Yeah.
But Harry, like, while we're on performance, I was trying to figure out who he reminded me of because his performance here has always reminded me of DiCaprio. But I realized, like, I think he's also got a little bit of Jack Nicholson in there. Like, he's doing, like, a combo impression of both of them.
Oddly enough, I can see that. Like, that makes a lot of sense to me.
Like, he's kind of got DiCaprio's vibe, but he's kind of doing, like, a Jack Nicholson cadence, I feel like.
You mean everyone's pissed off because he tried to turn the entire city into giant lizards?
Yeah. He's also got the Bully Maguire haircut.
Oh,
which
God.
is
Oh, no. I didn't realize
His
that.
hair.
Oh,
The whole
holy
conversation. Do you still blow
Oh.
dry your hair? One of my manservants holds the blow dryer and I just comb it.
Yeah.
I'm capable of some things.
That's-
Ah.
That's why. Okay, that makes so much sense. I was wondering what was throwing me off about his design besides like his pink eye makeup, and holy, it is
They should
because he
have had
flips
him
it
do-
a lot.
Oh, he does it all the time.
He does
Like
the hair
every
flip.
scene he's in. Like, holy,
shots,
Yeah.
I'll take the staff job. Double the money.
Until he gets that weird, like, goblin wig where
All
his
right,
head-
let's-
hairline
no.
recedes 25 inches.
Let's not talk about that. And it's also like swooped in the back. Like it's strange.
Now I just want to hear Dane DeHaan do all the Bully Maguire lines. Just like not as an impression, just do them as his hair.
I'm picturing him doing the dance right now, and it fits perfectly.
He would, yeah. That scene would not change much with Dane DeHaan doing it. He'd just look. I feel like he even dresses. Doesn't he have like the all black
Yes.
suit at
Yes.
some point in this?
Yeah,
Yes.
he wears all black like almost every single scene.
He
Yeah.
wears the Bully Maguire outfit.
Yeah.
Ba-da-ba.
I don't like him in this movie personally, but I don't know what would have made him better. I said perhaps different casting, but I don't know who else could have. Like the villains just in this movie were not written well. I mean, you had a point about choosing one. How do you think that would have changed it?
Choosing one, what?
Villain.
I think it would have helped, and I don't think Harry is the right villain
No.
for this movie. I think Electro is better. I think there are definitely other things that would have to change for that to work, but also like I actually don't mind when they team up, but
They didn't.
too.
Well, against Spider-Man, sorry.
They do well. There's the one point where like when he breaks him out of the prison.
I need you. Oh.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then he chases him, and apparently that's enough power to just get him out. All right.
Yeah. Well, I weirdly enjoy the scene where they like break into Oscorp together as a team.
Why was Harry able to do anything against trained guards that are trained
that
for
moment
break-ins?
where he turns into Jason Bourne for 5 seconds.
Chases the two. He was a spy during most of this movie where he was looking stuff up. I mean, I guess it's his company, but again, he was away for years. So why would he know most of anything?
Yeah. Yeah, that's fair. And like a lot of his backstory, like they have the whole scene where he's at his dad's deathbed, which like I guess that's obligatory because I suppose that's like Harry's comic origins, but also you don't really need it for this movie. Like it ultimately doesn't matter that much except that he has like the Osborn disease. But we don't need his whole like fraught history with his dad.
Norman Osborn. I'm guessing one of your assistants sent that to me. Yeah, with this, a lot of this movie could have been cut out. Like,
yeah,
it just did not need to be 2.5 hours.
There's the whole Oscorp politics side plot with the dude who looks like Mr. Lewin but isn't. But
Oscorp is another villain in this movie because apparently just everybody Spider-Man knows is also connected to Oscorp except Aunt May.
Yep.
Also, the plot with the parents, like, what were they thinking?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, I have a point on that.
Jesus Christ. Do we want to just get... Because I don't know how to fix the villains. I don't think anybody does, but do you guys have any suggestions on how to fix them before we move on to plot issues? Because it's going to be a doozy.
I mean, I don't really think there's any way to fix them. Like, from the script that we have now, like, you would have to go in and rework so much of the script beyond just the villains.
Right.
But just the time that the screenwriter's using, he's not managing his time well. And it's not helping him in any way.
I have a statement that might be considered heresy by some Spider-Man fans, but I stand by it.
There's been a lot of heresy, Evan.
Yeah, that's fair. I think we should stop trying to put Harry Osborn in Spider-Man stories. Because, I mean, we've seen that they work without him. I think actually, like, most of the ones that are agreed upon is better. Like, where is he in Spider-Verse? Nowhere. Like, where is he in Amazing Spider-Man 1? Those are, in my opinion, the best two. Even like
he's not
Tom
in the
Holland
MCU.
ones.
He's not in the MCU.
Like we've seen it works without him. I think he's one of the worst parts of this movie. And honestly, like I think Harry is the worst part of the Raimi trilogy, and that's saying something coming from me. Like
I don't think I've ever cared for him as a character.
I think they don't know how to work him in well. Like
maybe Spectacular Spider-Man. I think he was maybe, I don't remember completely, but there's a lot of love for just that show in general, and I think he maybe would have was done justice in that show. I can't say for sure, I don't remember.
I have no knowledge of that, so I won't fight you on it. But, I mean, for the mainstream theatrical releases, like, he's always dead weight. They're always trying to force him in somewhere, and it doesn't work. And I think part of it is that we never feel the relationship between him and Peter. In the Raimi trilogy, that's attributed to the fact that we never get, like, a scene where we actually, like, have them, like, vibing with each other. And also, James Franco was not that great of an actor. Like, and Tobey Maguire is not bringing it, even if he can. Like, so, obviously, there's issues there. And then in this one, I think, Jelani, you've alluded to this, not on this podcast, but definitely on others. Like, the fact that they kind of are asking you to ship them when they haven't seen each other for 10 years or whatever. Yeah. And like, I don't mind the fact that they like do that and they're just like, all right, we're reconnecting after some time. That's whatever. But then don't ask us to get invested in that, because that's not a relationship that either of them are probably going to be that invested in if they haven't seen each other for that long.
And there's not even a hint of him in the first movie. Like, we get a hint at Osborn, but they probably hadn't cast him, so he was just a locked character. But we don't even hear Harry's name or see it. So I don't know if they knew. Well,
not even an email.
Not even an email.
Not even an email. Yeah. And I don't think, like, that's not to say that they should have put Harry in The Amazing Spider-Man 1, because I don't think that would have been a good idea.
No.
But then, you know, maybe keep him out of 2 also, because if you can't make that a relationship that we're going to be invested in, it's a hard thing to make us care that much when it's just kind of like, oh, hey, I'm back in town for the first time. Why don't we catch up? Like, that's where these two are at. They're not at the point where Peter is going to try to sacrifice his life or whatever for Harry. That's not going to happen.
And they build everything between them up, not through like scenes, but through like exposition-y dialogue.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, so this is their history.
Right, and I don't mind that from a character perspective. Like, that's the two of them catching up. That's whatever.
But they're not even catching up. They're like reminiscing about the good old days. And then it turns into...
You got a girl.
Need your blood.
Yeah, she works for you. Did you guys notice in that scene where he's Spider-Man visiting Harry, he didn't disguise his voice?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Did you think Harry...
Yeah, he never disguises his voice.
That for a while.
You think Harry would recognize then?
Yeah, but that's like, I don't even... I just take that. I'm like, if there's ever a superhero who disguises his voice, like, the movie's just on that. Like, they're just doing that a little extra. Like, it's just...
Dark Knight.
Yeah, and that voice I'm not the biggest fan of.
No.
But he's Batman.
That is true. He will never.
Oh, one other thing with Harry, while we're still on him, you know, I think, again, it would be better if he wasn't in it, but given that he is, we needed more clarification on what the consequences of him getting Spider-Man's blood could have been, because Peter's just like, it could kill him. Okay, but, I mean, could it heal him?
He wanted to be the only Spider-Man.
Yeah, that's kind of what it feels like. Honestly, like, I kind of want to be on Peter's side, but also, like, Harry says, I'm dying anyway.
Yeah,
why don't we try? I kind of agree.
And then Peter has no counteraction.
Yeah, he's just like, this will suck. Spider-Man? I don't know. It doesn't have the same ring to it.
Yeah, well, this is pre-Spider-Verse and pre-No Way Home, so that wasn't trendy at the time.
Also, they rely way too heavily on Oscorp in these movies.
At least this one. The first one, I feel like it wasn't that, at least heavy-handed, because the main villain worked at Oscorp, and Gwen worked at Oscorp.
If Harry wasn't in this, they probably could have cut out everything with Oscorp, really.
Yeah, easily. Harry just like... he shouldn't have been in it. The goblin scenes are so rushed and ruined. Because, like, at least in the comics, this is such a major moment. Like, Gwen Stacy's death at the hands of Peter Parker because of the Green Goblin throwing her is a major moment in comic history. It, like, changed how people thought comics could, like, what could go down. They were like, wait.
When they had stakes.
That person could die? I didn't know that. And this one, it's like, Goblin, he has this whole, you betrayed me, but you don't feel it because you feel like, well, he just wanted to be the only Spider-Man.
Pretty much.
And then you don't feel the history, and then he looks kind of bad. And then the Gwen Stacy stuff goes down, and it's like such a waste. And it's just thrown in at the last like 10 minutes. Like, I was like pausing my movie being like, this is almost over. When is he going to come in? And then it was like 5 minutes later, and then the glider flies in. And I'm like, what? Harry could have been the whole third movie, and they could have ended the trilogy on her death, but...
They gave Harry Trae Young's haircut.
Who?
Okay. All right. He's a basketball player, and he's... You know when you, like, get hair on a lollipop when you, like, drop it? That's what he's been compared to. when it comes to his hairstyle. So that's that's what.
I'm glad to say that hasn't happened to me very much, but I'm seeing it now.
Yeah, that's the haircut. Let's move on to plot issues. I feel like, well, we've been talking about plot issues.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna say, yeah, I'm just gonna say a lot could have been cut out, and people make a lot of stupid decisions. That's it. Like this movie's not so bad that it's unwatchable. It's just I legit don't know how to fix it. I don't know how anybody can fix it. Besides, well, we've made some suggestions with like removing Harry and just focusing on one villain, but if we had to stick to whoever made the decision to keep this movie still somewhat similar, I don't think anybody could fix it.
I'm with you. I think a lot of it can get thrown away for the better. Like, if you could take out like most of this movie and just keep the 45 minutes of substance, and it would be a more enjoyable time. Like the Rhino stuff, chop it. Anything with the parents, chop it. Anything with Harry, chop it. All you need is Gwen and Electro, but they really overcomplicated everything. I had a few notes, just the flashback in the beginning. I have an issue in the last episode with the flashback in general, just because it felt weird and confusing and unnecessary because they go into the Uncle Ben storyline anyway. And in this movie, it felt like because they return to it and they give you the almost like exact same flashback except with more stuff and reshot and stuff with different actors. And I'm like, okay. And then they have the whole action scene that I guess they really were excited for.
Yeah, because that's a very expensive action scene, too.
Exactly, that plane's expensive. I love the transition because it's like one of the best swinging sequences like ever, especially in Spider-Man. And I just hate the parent scenes before it. And I hate the constant reminder from Peter in the dialogue how like his parents aren't there. Because like, to me, Spider-Man is Spider-Man because he lost Uncle Ben, not because he lost his parents. So, like, at the graduation, Aunt May's like, if only your uncle could be here. And then he's like, yeah, and my folks. And, like, that kind of constant thing happens throughout the rest of the movie until Aunt May just pops off and is like, what the hell? Your dad left you. I have been here this whole time. Screw you. And I'm like, finally. Mm-hmm. But I don't understand why that has to be there. Like, that's another storyline that, like, the Aunt May stuff is kind of just filler.
I didn't remember that the parents, like, this is how forgettable the parent stuff is. I forgot this movie opened up with the parents. I thought we were just gonna, and this would have made it a better movie.
Me
I
too.
think we were just, I thought we were just going to get straight into him swinging off the bat. I was ready. I was so ready.
Would have been so much better.
And then I hear
that
a bunch of,
that would have been so cool. Oh my god.
I hear a bunch of background noise and then I see an old white dude and I'm like, okay, wait, this isn't Peter.
Think about how amped you would get from the word go if the first moments of the movie is Hans Zimmer, burr, 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 and then it shows the Spider-Man logo and it's him swinging. Like, that is so much better of a way to start your movie. I was mostly thinking of it because I was thinking of what you said last time, David, with like just cut the flashback. Or like, I think you were saying reorder it, put the flashback and then the title sequence. Whatever you said, I had that in mind. And I was like, this would be so much more exciting, so much better of an opening to just start with the Spider-Man logo. That is what I want. Yeah. Like, next time I might just skip that scene.
Completely, because, like, it has no substance or substantial anything to the rest of what's going to happen in the 2.5 hours you're about to go in. So why not just have the more aesthetically and just, like, instinctively pleasing thing that you're getting? Because it just makes so much sense. Like, I don't know anyone who's like, thank God we got those flashbacks to Peter's parents because I really tied this movie together. I was lost and now I'm found. Like, you could really lose it.
I have previously enjoyed the part where he goes and finds the subway and he sees the video from his dad. Like, that has hit for me on previous viewings. It did not this time. Because I was kind of too caught up in, like, this is stupid, we don't need this.
Me too.
But, like, on previous viewings when I was more willing to go on that ride and didn't see the plot issues really at all. I know that did hit for me a little bit. Again, I don't really stand by that so much.
No, I had the same experience. The first time I watched it, that I remember being a very emotional scene for me. But when I watched it this time, and I don't know if it was just me having like a cynical, critical eye, but I was like, so how are you gonna tell me this dude has had a train hidden, abandoned, whatever, for how many years? And with the flick of a switch, everything,
It's not even
the
hard to
electricity works. There's not a speck of dust. It is like beautiful. The string lights are going. I'm like, what is this?
The computer with the giant back from the late 90s is still working in 2014 somehow. Like, there's no way. Well, did you guys have more on plot issues? I have two more small points.
I kind of said my piece on him and the Gwen scenes. I wish they had more of, and this is more my issue with just the writing in general. They split Peter so thin, and he has like, it's like you're watching a bad TV show that had a really high budget, and all the scenes are compiled with no commercial breaks, and it's him doing like errands for different like characters and arcs and things. Like nothing feels connected, nothing weaves together, and I wish there was more with connectivity between what we got with Electro and Gwen, because to me that's the only lifelines in this movie. Everything else, it's like, please really just cut it.
Yeah, I think if I was going to rewrite this, I would say, yeah, I think you bring it down to just Electro as the external conflict, and have something with Gwen. Maybe not exactly what they do with this, but maybe something similar, because it's not like an awful conflict. But again, I would make Electro, like, I would probably, if I were rewriting this, focus his goal mostly on, like, taking credit for the power grid and then, like, being vindictive about that. There's still issues that come up with it, so I don't think it's a perfect way to rewrite it, but also I don't have to be assigned to do that, so
Exactly.
I don't have to worry about that.
But it does make sense, because like it's not that hard or that much of a stretch to imagine two independent conflicts coming to a head because they both work at Oscorp. Like the proper screenwriter could have really popped off with that, but we didn't get that on this day.
I don't feel like his hate with Spidey is earned. Like when he keeps saying I hate Spider-Man,
It's a 180.
I'm like, what? Why? Because
It's
he
definitely
took
a
over the
180.
screens and you got jealous, and then he acts like he's his rival, and I'm like, fam, he doesn't even remember your name. Like, what? The same with Harry. Like Evan said when he said you betrayed me. I'm like, did he? I mean,
Yeah,
y'all.
one.
Y'all haven't spoken for years. You come back and ask for, well, he finds out his blood, and then he
Like
suddenly
imagine
betrayed
that.
you.
Imagine your friend who you haven't seen in 10 years comes back and it's like, hey, fun little thing. I have a genetic disease because of my father, and I'm gonna be dead in a few months. Can I have your blood? Like, I was thinking about Army Hammer the whole time. I was like, so this is just what Army Hammer does. He just goes around asking for people's blood.
I was
But he
not
gets
thinking
yes.
of Army Hammer, but okay, yes, I see.
Is
I
that
know-
one
I
of
know
those
what you're
names
talking
like
about.
Meta World Peace or Ocho Cinco?
No,
I
he's an
don't
actor.
know if it's a real. I don't know if that's his like birth name.
I
would
don't know.
think it's not. There's like no way. There's
But he's
no
a
way
cannibal.
What?
Yeah,
Yeah, he drinks
yeah. There was
people's
something in
blood.
the news about that a while ago.
He was in the Lone. That's all I know him for, the Lone Ranger, and I didn't even see that.
Yeah, he's in
movie.
the Social Network also.
Yeah, he plays the twins.
Yeah.
Both of them?
and he's in that.
Yeah, he plays
Sorry to
both of
bother
them.
you.
Yeah,
he's in
and
that.
he's in Call Me by Your Name. where he
Oh,
sleeps
yeah,
with
that's
Timothy
right.
Chalamet.
Yeah, I still gotta see that.
Let's get back on. Is there any more for
Yes.
plot issues?
Yeah,
Because you guys
I-
kept listing his fucking IMDb page, so I don't.
Sorry. So just two more things. One positive writing lesson to take from this, I think, is that there's a problem that there's too many plot lines, but most scenes do serve more than one purpose. The reason they have to do it is kind of from another problem, but I think it is a good lesson in make your scenes do more than one thing. That is a good strategy. And I think they actually weave them together as best they can under the circumstances. The biggest problem I see with the plot in this is, like, I kind of realized this time, having Electro get captured at the end of Act 1 causes so many problems for this, because the movie has nothing to do in Act 2. And that's why you get all these little subplots. Like, it has no main focus. That's why I think, like, having the power grid be his main thing. Like, I was kind of thinking he could do a Doc Ock, like in Spider-Man 2, where, like, he has some big action scene early on and then kind of, like, disappears and regroups for a little bit, and then has, like, one or two other big scenes where he fights Spider-Man. Like, never capture Electro, I think, in a rewrite of this would be a thing to do. Because as soon as he gets captured, like, all the energy goes out of the movie, and they, like, had to figure out what to do until he was freed.
The more you talk, the more you sound like him. Because Skype clearly did not, on my end, didn't want me to hear what you were saying about getting captured. But now you're starting to sound like him. So I don't know if this is all connected or if Mark Webb is listening.
Nah, Electro's just
in
sabotaging
Spider-Man
us.
No Way Home?
Ooh. Which transitions us if we're
speaking
done with plot
of-
issues.
Speaking of, No Way Home. Predictions. Go ahead.
Okay, well, my final thoughts on Amazing Spider-Man 2 before I do any of that. We talked about it. There's no J. Jonah Jameson. He appears in the email. That's horrible.
Well,
The other thing, I love watching Peter / Spider-Man work on his, like, electric repellent webs. That is one aspect of the Amazing Spider-Man movies that we don't get a lot in the other adaptations, that, like, is so true to the comics. And, like, he's a really smart guy in the comics, like, smarter than a lot of the other Marvel geniuses. So I wish we saw that even further, and hopefully other forms of Spider-Man we will get that. But yeah, No Way Home. My predictions. Okay. I think Doc Ock is going to be good, and I think he's going to work with Tom Holland and the crew, and I think that's why him and Electro are having a little bit of a issue in the trailer where he blasts him out of the building in what I assume is a third act giant finale fight. I think that's also why he is seen with the tech upgrade from Stark Tech in the trailer. I think this will not be Tom Holland's last Spider-Man, but I do think it will potentially be the catalyst to send him to the Sonyverse and have him fight with Venom and everything. I've read some fan theories about the box that Doctor Strange is holding is a multiverse box thing, and as a way to protect kind of what Peter does at the end, he might send that dimension into the box, and that is going to explain why we connect to the Sony dimension. That's a possibility. I'm not sure, but I'm vibing with it.
By the way, they already confirmed another trilogy.
Yeah, I heard that. But they were very suspicious with it. They were very, very sneaky with their wording, because they didn't say that they were doing it with Marvel. They said we would work together further with Marvel, and then we were doing another, and then they said and then later in a different sentence they said they're doing another trilogy with Tom Holland. They didn't say it together, and I was like, interesting. This kind of supports the Sonyverse theory, but we'll see. We'll see what they end up doing. I kind of want to see Mary Jane die, just because I watched Zendaya, Tom Holland, and Jacob Batalon on one of their interviews, and the way Jacob, Tom, and Zendaya were talking about it seemed like Tom was going to be in the next movies, but Jacob and Zendaya weren't. So I was like, ooh, are Ned and her going to die? Is it just going to be Tom that's getting sent, or is Peterman that's getting sent, and that's going to be the explanation? I don't know, but I was like, that could be interesting. But what I really think is going to happen is I think they're going to copy the Gwen Stacy moment with Zendaya as Mary Jane and put her on the bridge, like in the comics. And when she falls, Andrew Garfield's going to swing in and save her.
Yep.
That's my prediction. I do think Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield will both be in the movie. I do think that's why you see the lizard getting kicked in the face by an invisible foot in the trailer from Brazil. What else is there? I don't know. I don't know anything. I think Green Goblin's gonna be amazing because Willem Dafoe is the best, and the way he speaks like it's cheese fondue. He was like, "You want to have everything you want." Music to my ears. Jamie Foxx is gonna look fly, and he won't be blue. Thank God.
He has that dope-looking electro mask over his face.
Yeah, he's
Made
gonna
of
look
pure
really
lightning.
cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
ditto. They were so focusing on Mary Jane's falling. I was like, all right, that's got to be the scene where they both Toby and Andrew swing in. My thing is, can you imagine the backlash if neither one of them are in it? I think they're just gonna
I would die laughing.
I think
I
everybody
would start
cancel
dry heaving
Marvel.
at the end of the credits.
I will be part of that backlash if it's not.
I think everybody collectively would cancel Marvel if that's the case.
I'd be here for it. Subvert all expectation.
Because this is the perfect movie to bring them in, just to reprise their roles.
Or what if they bring back Emma Stone and she's Spider-Gwen from a different dimension?
I'm here for that.
Wouldn't know how to feel about that.
And she saves Mary Jane.
That's interesting. I can't say I dislike it.
I don't think that will happen, but I'd be here for it.
She's like been through this before, and then she winks at the camera.
She winks at the
That'd be
camera,
fun.
David.
Yeah, after she saves Mary Jane, Mary Jane's like, "Oh my God, I can't believe you saved me." And Gwen Stacy's like, "I've been through that before." And she winks at the camera.
I'm really glad we don't have David writing these movies.
You don't like my vision? What's wrong with it? Sound off in the comments.
That sounds like something that would be in a Raimi film.
Yeah, because it's camp as fuck.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
that's
and
great.
you're also
That's the
like
highest
kind of a
brow.
horror person too, as is Raimi. So maybe it's not.
And
that
I'm a camp
surprising.
person. I love camp. That's why, like, when Evan was like, the issue I have with the Raimi's is it's intentional. That's why I love it. Everything
not
in
here
that
for the
movie is so intentional. Like, there is not a beat in that movie that is misplaced. Like, that is handcrafted to be exactly the way it is. Whereas some of the Amazing Spider-Man 1 and 2 moments, especially the second one, because that's fresh in my mind, like, they have moments that are, like, close to it. Like, when Electro flips he doesn't just flip the table, he zaps the table and it, like, throws itself into a corner and smashes against the glass. And then Harry Osborn walks down the steps and goes, "Oh, how the tables have turned."
I just thought
And
of
I'm
Michael
like,
in that moment. Oh, how to turn tables.
oh, interesting. We love The Office. See,
Yeah.
Ryan.
Because Ryan. Yep, that's it.
The only like Raimi-esque moment I felt, it's like the tiniest moment, but in the initial swing sequence, there's some unseen pedestrian that goes like in this tone, Spider-Man, like off to the side, and Spider-Man's like, "Hey there, pedestrian," or whatever. He has some like response. That's the only moment in this that really rings of the Raimi trilogy, and I guess a couple of Electro's lines, but even those like. Because I think they're trying to make him, like, really badass with, like, some of his lines. I don't think that tends to be the undertone in the Raimis. Like, they don't mind their villains looking ridiculous. I don't think anyone wanted Electro to look ridiculous.
I don't think anybody's badass in those movies.
No.
Also, the suit.
No.
You guys like this suit more? When I saw it this
I do.
time, I agree with everybody else. I just don't like how thin it looks. Like, it looks like you could poke the suit and then there's a hole. Like, it looks ridiculously thin because there's, like, crinkles and stuff in it. So I do enjoy this suit more than the first, but I still kind of mess with the first one, too.
The first one being The Amazing Spider-Man 1, or...
Yeah,
Okay.
I like the idea of him using his sunglasses as lenses. It was kind of dope. To me.
I like them both, but I agree. Like, I kind of was looking at it and I was like, that looks like it's a little bit loose on him in a couple of places. Like, it doesn't look quite as... for some reason, it was distracting to me this time. But the design of it is really fly. Like, just the mix of colors is so dope.
Also, surprise, surprise. I saw a Reddit post that said Garfield is really good with acting with his body when he's in the suit.
Yeah.
And they played that scene at the power grid where Gwen shows up and she's like, "I'm here," and he's just upset at her and he's like grabbing at his body and like pushing her back and also looking back at the same time. I was like, yeah. There was no audio for the post either, and I was like, yeah, I think I agree. You can only show so much emotion when your face doesn't move.
He's just such a good actor.
Yeah, he's an excellent actor. He's probably in my top 10 favorite actors. More so for The Social Network than this movie. Like, Andrew Garfield has such a great physicality in and out of the suit. Like, sometimes I think it's a little aggressive. Like, I don't know if you guys would remember this moment, but at the beginning of the first movie, he, like, gets off the counter. Like, he's sitting on the counter and he follows Uncle Ben down the stairs. And he just does it in such a strange way. He's, like, hunched over somehow. It's very specific. And I don't know if it's, like, the best choice, but it is memorable. Like, you can tell it's him under the suit later when he's doing, like, those similar mannerisms.
Okay.
There's a lot of moments like that.
All right. Evan, predictions?
I don't have nearly as many predictions as David. You sound like you've got this movie half written in your head. I've fallen into that trap with other things. This is not one of those cases. I just want some good Andrew Garfield. That's literally the only reason I'm going at all.
You're gonna be so disappointed.
David is a masochist. He thrives off of people being.
I'm not a masochist.
Are you not? You
No.
just said you'd die laughing if they weren't in the movie.
Yeah, because of how funny that would be. That would piss so many people off.
Exactly what I'm saying. You just proved my point by saying what I
didn't
just
say it
said.
would piss me off, though.
No,
Being a masochist was I would
not
get pissed off. I'm a
masochist.
sadist.
I meant sadist. My
Yeah,
fault.
1,000%.
Okay.
Here we go. Get it right.
I remember masochist as me, and then sadist as the other one. But it didn't.
I would look down the line because I'm going tomorrow at 7 p.m. to see it with 10 other people.
I am
my
also
God.
going tomorrow at 7, I think. I don't know how many people are going. There's at least... I'm going with 2 people I know, and I think one of them got us the tickets, and they have some other friends that I am going to guess I haven't met. But we're all going tomorrow.
I see it Saturday, so I'm gonna stay off the internet from Thursday.
Yeah. Yeah.
If they're not in the movie, I will look down that line at all of their faces and laugh.
I'm almost definitely going to cheer when Andrew Garfield shows up. I'm going to be so hyped for
I'm going to cheer when that Elfman score starts playing. I'm going to freak out.
If they bring back the
will make
Hans, I'll
noises.
cheer for that, but I don't think they will. Yeah, I'm mostly really just going for the Garfield. If I didn't think he was going to be in it, I would not be going, and if he's not in it, I will count it as a waste of money.
But if you get like 2 minutes, will you be satisfied?
I want as much of him as I can get. If he's in it at all,
This is very
I'm
suggestive.
probably going to be satisfied, but I can tell you that I'm not expecting to enjoy the rest of the movie, especially. I'm sure it'll be fine. It's going to be the standard MCU. It's going to be like frustratingly basic, and they're going to have kind of annoying jokes, and Benedict Cumberbatch isn't going to be using a British accent, which is a crime. Like, I'm sure it'll be fine, but I'm really just going to be waiting for Andrew Garfield to show up. And I know people are going to be excited for Tobey Maguire. I won't take that away from any of them. I would really love to see them lean into some of the Bully Maguire memes. They are probably not going to do that. But I would like to see some kind of nod to it. I've been seeing some people say they think there's going to be a lot of jokes about how Toby's webs come like from him and not a web shooter, and they think there's going to be a lot of jokes about that, or at least some kind of joke about it. I don't see a way around it. It's got to be acknowledged somehow.
Yeah, I've seen people saying there should be jokes about that, and then Andrew not having a trilogy. But I don't know if they would actually be that like on the nose with it.
Well, you wanted Gwen Stacy to wink at the camera, David, so...
Yeah.
Well, I think the Gwen Stacy wink at the camera is more likely, because that's not like... That's meta
awesome.
enough.
No,
but
don't
acknowledging
take his
a
side.
whole, like, that Garfield doesn't have a trilogy, that's too meta for the MCU. I would love it. I don't think this will happen again, but I want Toby to enter with the James Brown song from the street dance scene in Spider-Man 3. I want that to be his intro music. It won't.
That's just hurtful.
It is my favorite thing about that series. I'm not going to apologize for wanting that, and I'm not going to get what I want. So,
Thank
I'll
God.
just state that here.
He's gonna come in with that Elfman score, and I'm gonna cry like a little baby. Because I remember when I watched The Last Jedi, and they brought back Yoda as a puppet, and I screamed in the theater, Yoda! And people looked at me like I was weird.
All right.
Yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of people cheering with me when Garfield shows up tomorrow.
Do you?
So,
Yeah, do you?
yes. Yeah, because it's
Like
going to
people
be
you're
opening
going
night.
with, or just like the public?
I think our theater will have. I mean, it's been really hard to get tickets. I heard. I wasn't expecting to, but then my friend was
But
like, "Hey,
they're
I've
gonna
got
cheer
some."
more for Maguire.
I wish you were wrong, but you're probably right. There will be more cheers for Maguire, which is part of why I'm definitely going to cheer for Garfield, because I don't know how many people are going to show up for him, but I'm going to show up for him. That's the only reason I'm there. Once he's on screen, I'm cheering.
You just start wooing until he gets off screen. It's
No.
all of his dialogue.
No.
all
I'm
the
not gonna
scenes.
do. I'm not gonna be that obnoxious. Yeah, Garfield. Yes, the whole time I'll bring an air horn. Like, yeah, that's my predictions. I'm not trying to predict too much outside of it. I don't really care what they do with this in the context of the MCU. I know what I'm getting, and I am not psyched for it outside of Garfield. Amen.
Did you? All right.
I don't know. That felt like a place to throw in an amen. But
Are you referencing God's Not Dead?
no.
It sounded like
Because
a
you know he
reference.
isn't.
All right, Jelani, what are your predictions?
I said ditto to what David said.
Oh, all of it.
Well,
Oh, you-
not the Gwen Stacy thing.
Oh yeah, that's not actually gonna happen.
You'd
That's
probably
not cool enough for
Chance
that.
Emma Stone will show up, but I would not.
That's the
put
end credit
money on it.
scene. It's her putting on the suit, and they're like wrapping up the set.
Oh wow, you just really want to get meta with it, huh?
Why not? They have so much money. Like, get over yourself, Disney.
All right. I want to keep this shorter than the movie, so if we're done, let's be done.
I'll just reiterate: this is not great, but I am gonna rewatch it someday again, expecting to enjoy it again. I still enjoy this movie, and I'm not sorry that I do, but I do acknowledge it's bad.
All right. I can only watch Emma Stone die so many times, so I can't be with you there. But I get it.
I remember being so devastated when I watched that in theaters, and this time I watched it, and I was like, did you feel anything?
David,
I
that
thought
doesn't
what your dad
surprise me.
thought.
That doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, I mean, I feel things a lot, but not there. I fucking what was it, the hand thing that your dad said? I was like, really? The hand's reaching out. Like I would expect that in the Raimi trilogy, because the Raimi trilogy is just that is the Raimi trilogy. But in this one, I was like, really? It's a hand?
I won't defend the web hand, but the rest of that scene I think is pretty damn solid. Like that, just the fall sequence and the slow-mo with it. This movie does have a good use of slow-mo, I think. I don't know if I mentioned that before, but I think it actually employs it quite well. Our next episode is probably going to be Back to the Future. We're going to be off for a few weeks probably for the holidays, but that is in the future.
Really?
You can check out our YouTube channel. There should be a video about Spider-Man coming up pretty soon.
Yep.
Collaborative effort this time between me and Jelani. Don't know when that'll happen.
Yep.
But probably within a couple weeks once I get it edited. You can go to our Patreon for $1 a month and hear us rant about the Raimi trilogy and get a few other bonus episodes. We have merchandise on Zazzle. Our logo's by Kelsey Hendry. I'm on Twitter at ev_Wes.
I'm on Twitter at Jelani T. Kelly. No, base_Phoenix. Oh, I keep forgetting. Instagram, base Phoenix, one word. I haven't streamed on Twitch, but I have a YouTube, base Phoenix, as well. I'm still looking for a manga artist. I've been working really hard on getting that ready to go. So if you are a manga artist, please feel free to reach out.
I am going to be at the Cherry Hill Mall tomorrow watching Spider-Man, so come on out.
Well, this won't be out until well after
Perfect.
that, I think. But,
Ideal.
so nobody can
Location
stalk
is
you.
secure.
But you have an alibi now, so or
Exactly.
something. We have you on record there. Are you still at the clock tower Gwen Stacy dies at on Instagram?
Yes.
Oh,
Okay. Figure we bring it back.
why?
Might as well. There's no other time we do it.
Bring it back. Ah, she broke her back.
I'm gonna let that one go.
If only Peter could, you know, but he wept her.
Okay.
You
Yeah.
made me wait the whole episode.
And then I snapped it on you.
All right.
Just
Really,
like Gwen's neck
David?
snapped.
All right. You better watch it because
all right,
you're stretching your limit. You're stretching. Yeah. All right, Disney. If Andrew Garfield isn't in it, I'm coming for you. If he is,
Show me a Raimi fan, and I'll show you a cult member. All right, bye.
see you guys next time.